Have you ever just stared at a page of Japanese text and thought, no way, this is literally impossible? The sheer number of complex characters is enough to make anyone's head spin. And if you're a Korean speaker trying to learn Japanese, you are definitely not alone in feeling this way. But what if I told you that you actually already possess a built-in decoder ring for this language? It's true. Today, we are unlocking a secret method to learning Japanese kanji by leveraging the Korean language knowledge you already have sitting right there in your brain. So get ready, because we're going to radically lower the barrier to entry for learning Japanese. Okay, let's dive right into this. It's the classic beginner trap, right? You start learning Japanese, everything seems totally fine, and then, boom, you hit kanji. You see a single character, and suddenly you have to memorize not just how to write the thing, but multiple completely different ways to read it. It's incredibly common to feel stuck, totally intimidated, and just plain exhausted by the massive volume of characters you're expected to memorize. Honestly, that feeling of frustration, it's entirely valid. So here's our blueprint for this explainer today. We'll look at the kanji barrier, the phonetic bridge, onyomi versus kunyomi, a really cool case study on the character for South, a daily and weekly study routine, and finally, some essential resources to get you started. All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the kanji barrier. Why exactly is it so intimidating? You know, a lot of Korean learners feel like they're starting from absolute zero when they look at kanji, but honestly, you aren't, not even close. The foundational discovery made by the author of our source material is simple, but it's super profound. Korea, China, and Japan all share a Hanja, or Chinese character cultural sphere. And because of this shared historical background, the pronunciations of words across these languages didn't just develop in a vacuum. They are inherently connected. There's this hidden, highly predictable linguistic link just waiting for you to use it. Moving right along to Section 2, this is where it gets fun, the secret phonetic bridge. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the clear linguistic flow we see mapped out here. Think of it kind of like a family tree of sound. Historically, a base Hanja sound was established. Then, in Korea, that exact sound was codified using Hangul. But simultaneously, as that Hanja crossed the ocean over into Japan, it evolved into what we call onyomi, which is written in hiragana or katakana. Because both the Hangul and the onyomi originate from the exact same root sound, the phonetic jump from the Korean pronunciation to the Japanese onyomi is remarkably predictable. Okay, Section 3, onyomi rules versus kunyomi. This distinction is absolutely crucial. If you're a beginner, you really have to get this mechanic down to save yourself a lot of headaches. Onyomi basically translates to the sound reading. This is the pronunciation that was imported from the mainland centuries ago, right alongside the character itself. Kunyomi, on the other hand, is the meaning reading. That's the native indigenous Japanese word that already existed for a specific concept, which they later just conveniently attached to the imported Chinese character. So, what does this all mean for your actual study time? Well, it's a real game changer. Because onyomi comes from that shared Hanja root, it is highly predictable. If you know the Korean pronunciation of a character, you can usually guess the onyomi using regular phonetic patterns. Kunyomi, however, well, that developed entirely independently in Japan, so sadly, there's no predictable connection to Korean there. Kunyomi just requires straight-up memorization. But think about it. By isolating the onyomi, you've essentially just automated half of your vocabulary learning. Let's make this concrete. Section 4 is a quick case study analyzing the character for South. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what we're talking about. Just look at the Korean Hanja reading for the direction South. It's nam. Now look at the Japanese onyomi, the sound reading. It's nan. Nam shifting to nan. It's an incredibly logical, almost identical phonetic shift. However, if you look over at the kunyomi, the indigenous Japanese reading, it's minami. Obviously, minami sounds absolutely nothing like nam. Now, check this out. Watch what happens when we actually start combining characters. Because compound words almost always use the onyomi, this amazing regularity is perfectly maintained. The Korean word for north and south is numbuk. In Japanese, namboku. The South Sea in Korean is namhae. In Japanese, nankai. Meridian altitude in Korean is namjungodo. Japanese, nanchukodo. By simply applying this one phonetic rule, you are instantly expanding your vocabulary without any extra rote memorization. It's literally a linguistic cheat code. All right, Section 5. Your kanji study routine. Time for a daily action plan. So, how do we actually put this into practice every single day without losing our minds? Our source author outlines a really specific repetitive study loop to guarantee you make progress. Step 1. When you see a new kanji, first identify its Korean Hanja base. Step 2. Apply that phonetic shift rule we talked about to guess the Japanese onyomi. Step 3, just accept that the kunyomi has no shortcut and memorize that indigenous Japanese meaning completely separately. And finally, step 4, cement your knowledge by practicing shared 2-character vocabulary words where the onyomi rule really shines. To help you systemize this and, frankly, avoid total burnout, here is a fantastic structured weekly plan. From Monday to Friday, dedicate your time strictly to learning those Hanja bases and matching them with their onyomi rules. Really get comfortable crossing that phonetic bridge. Then, on Saturday, test yourself by reviewing the shared compound vocabulary words. Finally, on Sunday, take a deep breath, grab some coffee, and do the heavy lifting of memorizing those irregular kunyomi readings. Segmenting their study out like this keeps things incredibly focused and way less scary. Wrapping up with Section 6, Essential Books and Resources to Guide Your Journey. These top recommendations are absolute gold mines, seriously. Understanding Japanese Words Through Hangul by Lee Bu-young and Lee Ji-young is the foundational text that really put this approach on the map. And alongside that, you've got the 3-part series, Japanese and Korean Are Too Similar by Lee Hwa-jing. That series dives incredibly deep into the phonetic similarities, giving you just endless examples of that onyomi connection. If you want the whole shebang, a really comprehensive toolkit for mastering these connections, these additional readings are fantastic. Books like Reading Japanese in Our Language for Fun and Explaining Japanese Kanji Kunyomi in Korean will help you tackle both the predictable onyomi and the irregular kunyomi sides of the language with so much less stress. They basically reframe learning from a boring chore into an exciting process of linguistic discovery. So there you have it. You now have the blueprint, the methodology, and the exact resources you need to turn your Korean knowledge into a massive, unfair advantage for learning Japanese kanji. It's time to stop seeing kanji as this giant, unscalable wall and start seeing it as a bridge you already know how to cross. So I'm going to leave you with this question. Which Korean word will you try to decode into Japanese today? Grab a word, apply the onyomi shift, and see for yourself just how deeply connected these languages truly are. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and hey, happy studying!